Richard, how do you feel about it? Do you think that Donald Trump would be able to break a deal, cut a deal, or as Michael said, you're not that much optimistic about it?
I've never understood the what strikes me as nonsense about Mr. Trump and deals. He seems remarkably poor at making deals. What he can do is use the power that the positions he acquires give him. He seems to know how to do that well. And he has, and I have to give him credit, welded together a remarkable coalition. So he can put coalitions together, but making deals among them, other than here, join the coalition because I'm going to give you this. So let's just review that, and then I'll get to the meeting in Anchorage, in Alaska. In order to win, the leaders of either the Republican or Democratic Party, since they are both beholden to the business community, the employer class in this country, and have been for many, many decades, they have to get from that community large sums of money, now counted in the billions, if not tens of billions of dollars for each electoral cycle. Okay, they do that. What do they do with the money? Answer: they put together coalitions of various groups of the population with the same objective: get them to vote. If you're the Republican businessmen and women, get them to vote for the Republican. If you're the Democratic businessmen and women donors, get them to vote for the Democrat. And by now, we're quite familiar with who the coalition partners are. The deals were made long before Mr. Trump arrived on the scene. The Republicans cut no deal now, they just continue. They are the party that throws money and opportunities and lots of symbols at what? We know them, right? Fundamentalist Christians, white supremacists, people in love with their guns, people who hate immigrants. I could collect a few more, but you know it's familiar. And on the Democratic side, who? Better educated people, women, non white people, and that's what they do. And the elections are assigned, outcomes depend on who's a bit more effective one year than the other, either in getting the money. Look at Elon Musk throwing $200 to $300 million at Mr. Trump to counteract whatever Kamala Harris might have achieved otherwise, etc. And the election is decided by 1, 2, 3% of the vote. Trump has no mandate. If he had one, maybe he could talk that he took this conventional arrangement one step further. He made a deal, but he didn't. He didn't take it one step further at all. His vote is the same Tweedledum, Tweedledee oscillation that we have always seen. And I think that the Russians know it. So when we get to the meeting in Alaska, I want to underscore, if anything, go further than what Michael said. I don't think it's got anything to do with Ukraine. And the reason is that the issue of Ukraine has been resolved. The Ukraine lost and Russia won. End of story. We might wish it to be otherwise, but it is silly to keep pretending. Time is on the Russian side. Every day, the Russian army moves a certain number of kilometers westward. The West loves to say they're not doing it as fast as they had hoped. Who the hell knows? The West doesn't know, and whether it's true or not doesn't matter. The line of direction is obvious, unrelentingly obvious. By this point, to pretend that it's otherwise shows that you're not in touch anymore with what's going. You are so upset by the reality that you have shifted over into make-believe. Therefore, the Ukrainian issue should be left exactly the way it is the Russian true, the Russians could save the lives and the expense of another 6 months or 12 months of war. But look, the reality is, again, that going to war has increased the rate of economic growth in Russia compared to what it was before the war. In other words, this war is doing for the Russian economy what World War II did for the depressed American economy. We shouldn't be surprised at that as a possible outcome. That's what all of Keynesian economics teaches us. Massive government intervention, whether it's for war or growing flowers, has a stimulative effect. And it has done that in Russia. Their problem is a bit of inflation, not a bit of collapse. Do the Russians have their economic problems? Of course they do. And if you're a child, you'll cherry pick a few statistics of where they're having trouble and say, the way a lot of people are these days, Mr. Trump, be aware that the Russian economy is in terrible. That's not true. The repetition of that doesn't make it true. The failure to show it makes it false. So Mr. Putin will be there, and he's not interested in Ukraine. He understands that's the game. That's what we talk about. And why? Because that's what Mr. Trump wants. Lost in all of this is that it's now crystal clear that the United States has been for months pushing for this meeting. They want a summit. That's the political theater they want to stage. Mr. Trump knows that he's winning. Everyone else in the world who pays attention and who is not the leader of a European country whose entire career has been saying yes to America against first the Soviet Union and now Russia. What Mr. Trump, let me finish it. What Mr. Trump faces is a Russia that has a completely different agenda. And there, Michael was exactly right. They want arms control treaties. They want peaceful resolution of hotspots in the world that might lead to conflict, such as the Middle East, such as the Caucasus Mountains, if the United States is going to start making trouble there, etc., etc. And the final point, the reason that's the agenda of the Russians and why they might be willing to say, yes, let's have a ceasefire, we'll have a meeting in October to go over the specifics of this. The longer it takes, the better their position, and the weaker the Ukrainians and the silly Europeans who don't understand you can't have a sustained foreign policy of hostility to Russia as you're losing your own people to support it. And the final point, the whole world understands there's a shift going on away from the United States, away from Europe, toward Asia, number one, and the global South, number two. And all of this is playing around because you can't stop it, because you can't control it, because the people who are winning, the global South, know it, and the people in the global North are still busy denying it. As long as you have that situation, they're going to stretch this out. Of course they are. That is their best strategy. And that will govern whatever happens in the poor, unfortunate country of Ukraine, about whom neither side gives a flying you know what.
we know that Donald Trump yesterday was repeating that they want, you mentioned as well, that they want ceasefire in Ukraine. And you look at the way that Europeans are talking about it. Zelensky wants ceasefire. Everybody on the part of the West wants ceasefire in Ukraine. On the part of Russians, what does that mean in your opinion for the economy of Russia, for what's going on in Ukraine, for what's going on? Is the ceasefire the same, has the same sort of meaning for Russia? It's the just somehow putting an end to the conflict temporarily and just making some moves on on Ukraine, improving the Ukrainian army, or sending more weapons to Ukraine to go against Russia again. What does that mean when they're asking about the ceasefire, Michael?
Well, I don't think there's any chance of Europe sending either troops to Ukraine or even weapons, because they're out of weapons. I think that what Richard has explained, that Russia's winning, and it's very easy to make the forecast of that Russia is going to very rapidly absorb the provinces that it is set out to absorb, because the Ukrainian army has fallen apart and Ukrainian society has fallen apart. So when Richard talks about the whole world understands this obvious military fact that the ultimate solution and resolution of the war that between NATO and Russia in Ukraine will be settled on the battlefield. It's not going to be settled by any bilateral meeting, either by Trump or by Russia and Europe. It'll be settled on the battlefield. That's what frightens the hawks, in the anti-Russian hawks in Europe so much. They know that they've lost. They're trying to somehow depict themselves as, well, what can we salvage from our loss? What can we do to neutralize Russia's success on the battlefield? What can we do to say, well, we need a protection force. We had an army in what's left of Ukraine just to prevent Russia from attacking it again, meaning for our to put missile bases on so that we can send missiles against Russia, which is the only thing that we are able to do. They're trying to figure out a fallback position, and at the same time, if they want to discredit Trump and saying Trump has been hypnotized by Putin, he really is Putin's puppet or Putin's zombie under his control. I think that is what the Financial Times and the German publication Bild says. And I think that this is really the setting. So Putin can say that in view of the fact that they're not going to agree at any conference table while the war is going on. When there's a ceasefire, it's when there's a stalemate. And the two sides will say, okay, it's a stalemate. Let's stop, and we can see where this is going. It's not going to go further than it is now. Let's just stop and draw the line so that neither of our armies are going to have our citizens killed. But as Richard's explained, and I think all of your guests on your show have explained, this is not a stalemate. This is a rout. Finally, the dam has broken, and the Ukraine army is lost. The whole project promised by the CIA, promised by the congressional advisors, promised by Biden, and promised by Trump in his first term, that somehow this war is going to destabilize Russia's economy. It will overstrain it. It'll be a repeat of the Afghan war. The Russia is going to overstrain it. It'll collapse. The population will revolt, and there will be a regime change. All of that is a fantasy, and the problem is how to convince the victims of this fantasy, its perpetrators who are smoking their own dope, can come to accept the fact that not only is the fantasy over, but their hope of somehow retaining something from this fantasy is not going to work. I think Russia can say to Trump, we know that you have a problem with Europe. We're on your side, not Europe's side. We don't want Europe. There's nothing that Europe has that we want, and we're willing to give up all the hope of selling our oil and gas, raw materials, or other things to Europe. We have no desire for European investment in our country. You can you can have Europe's energy market for your liquefied natural gas. That's the only market. We're willing to stay out of Europe and leave that, Western Europe, leave that as your sphere of influence. You're all free for it. You can sell all the arms you want to the NATO countries, but just realize that once these arms are bought by Europe, they're European arms, not American arms anymore. And any attack on Russia's territory is going to be met by a counterattack on the attacker. The attacker is not Ukraine. The attacker is MI6 and the CIA and the American troops there, but not the American mainland. The attacker is France. The attacker is Germany. German military arms producers, Rheinmetall, etc., they will be under attack. The American troops in Germany and in England will be under attack because they're part of the English and German attack on Russia, but not America itself. This is going to be the nitty-gritty of everything. And Putin can quip to Trump that this is the most peace-oriented thing that the United States can do. Avoid a U.S.-Russia exchange of bombs. You can have Europe as your sphere of influence. And that really is the only power that the U.S. economy has. Richard's quite right, as both of us have been describing how the American empire is in decline. America has declared war on 85% of the world's population, and the world's population has just said, okay, we're withdrawing. You can sanction us, not trade with us. We're happy to reorient to trade without you. Brazil is now replacing America's soybean farmers. The American agriculture is in trouble. The rest of the world, 85%, can live by itself, letting the United States have the one area in which the American empire still has room to expand into Europe. And when Secretary Hesketh the other day said, we're looking at all of the assets, the monetary reserves of Europe are really going to be we're going to make a national investment fund, and we're going to tell Europe to invest their reserves in American industry to try to rebuild industrialization here. Well, Trump can sort of applaud Trump and say, this is a wonderful idea. Let them try to do that. Well, of course, it's not possible to reestablish industrial viability in the United States for the reasons we've discussed before. America is no longer an industrial capitalist country. It's a finance capitalist country, and finance has no interest at all in industrializing the economy as a means of getting rich, when you can get rich much quicker by rent seeking, by financial engineering, by indebting the economy of the bottom 90% to the wealthiest 10%, by achieving monopolies, especially in information technology and computer chips. I think what Russia can do is speed the parting guess, applaud America's ability to revive its economy at Europe's expense, and say, you go your way, we'll go our way. We will not interfere with whatever you want to do in Europe. We surrender to you, the European market. And they'll laugh to themselves as they realize that What they've got is the part of the world, the 85%, that has a growing market. That basically is the context for all of the negotiation. I don't think there's anyone on the American side that is telling that to Mr. Trump, but that's why our show, your show, has such a large readership.
Let me add a little bit here. We learned from the Vietnam War that for months, probably for years, the American government was divided about ending that war and departing. And the reason was that they were losing. But nobody wanted to be the president or the political party in charge to make the final statement, okay, we're leaving, we lost. And so we saw those amazing photographs of the few Vietnamese who could hang on with their hands to the bottom of the departing helicopter as it left Saigon in 1975. We then had the same delay at the cost of countless American lives over when to leave in Afghanistan, as it became clear that the Taliban had defeated the United States. Oh, excuse me, the coalition of the dubious, the willing. Wow. You know what's going on now? A debate about how to handle the comparable situation in Ukraine. People ask, why the focus on a ceasefire? Because a ceasefire, just a word, is a lot less painful than defeat. And you can say, we accomplished a ceasefire. Then you can hype it as though we forced it on them and all the rest of it. It would be wonderful for the Europeans who are so afraid of their own people. What will happen to the mass of the European? Ask yourself. If they have to watch the next 6 months or a year of the final defeat of the Ukrainian shell army, which is all that's left, that's going to make those who have been critical all along wave their fingers and say, we could have avoided this war from the beginning. We could have agreed in Minsk, or we could have agreed in Istanbul to end it much earlier. But our leaders said, stay with it. And so now we are horribly in debt. We are horribly economically hurt. They already admit that the cost of energy is off the chart in Europe and therefore damaging them competitively. Therefore, those particular leaders that have been pushing, of course they're pushing now. Their own survival is at stake. Their survival politically cannot handle a defeat. It'll be too much, and it will lead to their people saying, since Russia has never attacked any of them, work out an arrangement. Rearrange the security architecture of Europe. That's a better bet. Otherwise, we risk here having happen what they just suffered in their horribly defaced country of Ukraine. We don't want this. A ceasefire now is better for the West than all of that. Or to say the same thing as bluntly as I know how. We are watching the demand for a ceasefire from the side that's losing. Of course they want a ceasefire. Will they then rebuild? Sure they will. Will the Russians rebuild? Sure they will. Will we then have the same issue? Sure we will. That's why it's not a solution for the Russians. That's why Putin keeps saying, no, 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 not a ceasefire. We have to go to the root causes. Because otherwise there is no end to this. That's but the West will take that. Because they're facing, we lost, we got a ceasefire, or kick the can down the road. And given the courage of the leaders of Europe and the United States, kicking the can down the road would be my number one bet. Last point. Here's a deal Mr. Putin might make. Give the West a ceasefire, but hedge it around with qualifiers, conditions, exemptions to make it do what the Russians want it to do. That way you can have the saving face for Mr. Trump. I got a ceasefire. And the Russians able to do 90% of what they had intended to do. Is that possible? I'm no military expert, and I don't know what the conventions of diplomacy like this are. But it wouldn't be the first time that between the public parts of an agreement and the secret parts of an agreement, such things are agreed to. That has happened before. That could happen again.